Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Alright, jump back in. 1, 2, 3. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Hey, thank you very much for joining me for another Tuesday edition episode. This is Matt, and this is episode number 898. Well, if you're listening to me all 6 episodes of the week, you've probably heard me mention a person that I follow and listen to, named Gary Vaynerchuk. Actually, a guy, he's younger than me, a couple years younger than me. He's accomplished a ton, but he's kind of transformed what he does over now to motivation. And so I did a thing the other day where I got on and I said, hey, here's a tip, and that is, if you are now self-employed, because by the way, so being self-employed is great. I personally love it. It's a lifestyle that I enjoy. Other than being able to farm full-time and to do nothing but farm full-time, being self-employed and farming at the same time, to me, there's nothing better. That's exactly what I was striving for. It's what I very much enjoy. And by the way, I enjoy running and developing my business and this podcast so much that, honestly, and I've said this before, honestly, if I reached a point now where all I had to do was farm, I'm not quite sure I would do that because I would miss this too much. This is very exciting. It's really stimulating, and it's a lot of fun to do, to fill my time with and to do during the day. So anyway, as a result of that, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and the reason I do is because that guy fills me with so much motivation. See, when you're self-employed, it doesn't, even when you find something you truly enjoy and you like doing, it doesn't take away necessarily all of the resistance. Now, I've talked about resistance and what that is in the past, but resistance is, I finished irrigating this morning, I wanted to grab something to eat, and then it was time to get up to my office and sit down at my desk and get going, and there was just a little bit of resistance. There's just a little bit of temptation to turn on the TV, or to just chill, or to go work on a project outside when I know I've got work and deadlines that need to be taken care of up in my office. And there's a little bit of resistance, and even if you're in the right fit, even if you really enjoy what you do, there's resistance. I mean, there's resistance, and you guys, I'll admit this to you, there's resistance going on vacation. There's resistance going out to the movies or going out to dinner. I mean, there's times where it's like, well, we're going to go out to a nice dinner, but I've got to get dressed. I got to drive all the way into town. Got to be there at a certain time. It'd be nice just to kind of put on some sweatpants and sit in front of the TV tonight. There's always a little bit of resistance. And the reason that I follow Gary Vaynerchuk is because he and the way he motivates and the way he talks about being self-employed, for me, works very, very well to help me overcome that resistance on a daily basis. Now, I don't wake up every day, feeling sluggish or feeling like I don't want to get up to my office and build this business or build this audience or talk to all of you. I don't mean to give you that impression, but I also don't wake up every day gung-ho. And it's those days where it is very useful to listen to somebody like him. Well, anyway, so this morning I was listening to something he said, and the reason I'm giving you all this background is because I don't want to take credit for something that I didn't come up with on my own. Now, I've had these thoughts before, but he prompted me to talk about this today. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said this morning. And what he said was, make sure that your version of what you are doing makes you happy. You don't have to do it like me or anyone who is featured on the show. We just want you to be happy. And that's the way I feel. And it made me think back to when I first started the Off-Farm Income Podcast. When I very first started it, and actually it makes me think back to before I started the Off-Farm Income Podcast, where the seed of the idea came from, the inspiration. And I'll tell you the story one more time. So, of course, I had been a police officer for about 15 years. about the last 5 years of it, it just wasn't as exciting to me anymore. It was no longer the right fit. And I think about that quite a bit because I am proud of my time that I spent as a police officer. I'm proud of the sacrifices I made and the things I went through so that other people in my community didn't have to. And the things I went through to help people, the things I went through to make the world a better place. I'm proud of all of that. I'm very, very proud of my time as a police officer. But it was service. And I think everybody, looking back, is proud of their time providing service. Think about folks who've been in the military. And not career military folks, not people who put in their 20 years or 20 plus. But think about people who went in and they served for 2 years or 3 years or 4, whatever that may be. And the rest of their life, they carry that as a badge of honor. On, I don't know, anytime on the 4th of July, Veterans Day, whatever that may be, they carry that as a badge of honor, and they should. They absolutely should. But by the end of that 2 or 3 years in the military, they were dying to get out and to move on to something else. Or maybe it was 5 or 6 years, maybe it was 10. Who knows? But they were ready to move on and try something else. It doesn't diminish the service that you provided, but there are seasons of life. And so as I look back at my time as a police officer, because there are people I worked with that I was jealous of who, they were right where they were supposed to be. Every day was exciting for them. Every day they were developing, they were getting better, they were growing, and that's because they were right where they were supposed to be. And I refuse to look at the world and see it through such a narrow focus to think that if you reach a point in time where a certain job's no longer the right fit for you, that you were not supposed to be there. I think I was supposed to be there to serve. I think a certain portion of my life, based on my personality, maybe based on my purpose on this earth, was supposed to be devoted to service. Now, I don't mean to say that I don't serve anymore, but I certainly don't serve in that capacity any longer. But I think a certain portion of my life was supposed to be devoted to service. And in that portion of my life, it came and it went, and that was at about the 10-year mark of me being a police officer. And then it took me about another 5 years to finally come to the realization that this is no longer what I'm supposed to be doing. I have other interests. I have other things that are calling me. And I don't know. What is calling me to do that? Is it God? Is it, I don't know. Is it some other force, some other energy? I don't know. But I can feel it. I can feel it pulling me in this direction. And it wasn't always clear. It wasn't always clear where I was supposed to be going. I just knew that I was being pulled in a direction and I needed to explore and figure out where that road was going. Now, this is very interesting because I think back to when I made the decision to major in agriculture and start working around cattle, working around ag and farming and row crops and everything I did during college. And I think back, and in my mind, I always diminish that decision. Now, I'm going to tell you something very embarrassing about myself. Now, I always talk to you about growing up in Valley Home, the farmers, the community, the cattle ranching, the rice farming, all of that went on. That's all true. And my interest in cattle, that is all true as well. Here's something I don't talk about very much because I don't think this is necessarily true, but this is how I used to diminish my decision to follow my interest into agriculture. And that was, I graduated high school in 1991. So what was going on in 1991? Well, in 1990, 91, 92, right in that era, Garth Brooks, Clint Black, and a bunch of other people following in their footsteps in country music were hugely popular. And admittedly, Garth Brooks was definitely the trailblazer during this era, the early 90s. And country music was exploding. I had friends that were buying horsehair belts, huge buckles, cowboy hats, boots. I mean, it was going on left and right. Now, that's just how I grew up. But if you remember my story, when my parents got divorced and I graduated 8th grade in Valley Home, California, my dad wanted me to move into Modesto, which is a larger city, a couple 100,000 people, and go to high school there. So I wound up going to high school in Modesto with people who didn't even know where the town I grew up in was, even though it was in the same county. So that was the transition for me. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing people that I went to high school with in Modesto. And just like Alan Jackson says, Alan Jackson's another one I should have mentioned. Just like Alan Jackson said, they're going country. I mean, they're buying belts and buckles, hats, boots, jeans. And I'm like, I guess I can get these out of the closet. And so all of a sudden it became very popular, and that was right when I was beginning college. And so I decided to major in ag. I wanted to return to my roots and how I grew up. And so I have diminished that decision many times over my life, thinking the only reason I majored in ag was because I just wanted to go country, or go back to country, be around country people. And I've never ever, allowed myself to go, no, there was something more to that. Matter of fact, I'm being very unfair to myself. There was definitely a genuine interest in that. And it's funny because it doesn't matter how many times I do interviews on the show, how many times I turn cattle into new pasture and just sit out there and watch them eat and love to be around cattle, love to see new calves, how much I enjoy this entire lifestyle, I still get hung up on that and think, man, I lucked out. I made a really shallow decision and it turned out to be something good for me. Why am I telling you all that? I don't know. Today is Honesty Tuesday. I don't know. But now I look back, and as I look back on everything, I look back at how I became a police officer, some of the things that led to that. I look at everything I did during college, and the fact that I was interested in all aspects of agriculture, and I kind of became this, this jack of all trades, master of none, meaning I knew a little about a lot and not a lot about anything. I just had this broad interest in agriculture, and then how at some point in time in the future, this concept of podcasting developed, and this became what I do for a living. All of a sudden, this innovation came about, and I can interview people in row crops, I can interview people raising livestock, I can interview people anywhere in between, and I know a little about all of it because I've worked in all of it and I've had interest in all of it. And it's difficult for me to accept that things happen the way they were supposed to happen. I look back at that decision to major in agriculture and look at what it's doing for me now, and I don't know. I feel like it's a fluke. So, that's something I've got to work on personally. But anyway, I'm bringing this up because I don't know that anything happens by accident. I think there's a way things are supposed to go. Now, with that said, I do believe that while nothing happens by accident, we have the free will to ignore what we're being told, or we have the free will to ignore or to not listen to whatever is talking to us internally. I do believe that. And so as I talk about the development of the Off-Farm Income podcast, I think back to that day. The day when that seed was planted, when that inspiration struck me. And so what had happened was I had left my full-time job as a police officer after 15 years. I'd finally made the leap, but I had started my own business, and my business had grown to the level that it could support me and it could replace my income as a police officer. And so I made that leap. And there was a morning where I had done all the chores on the farm, all the animals were fed, everything was taken care of, and then I was in my pickup, I was pulling my gopher extermination machine, I was headed out the driveway to go work in my own business for my own customers on my own, and my buddies started texting me about football, and I sat at the end of my driveway for like 20 minutes texting back and forth about football. Just ridiculous, time-wasting stuff. And when we got all done and I got ready to head out and to go do this gopher extermination job with that first business, Idaho Gopher Control, that I had this feeling come over me of happiness, of content. contentment. And where that came from was I had at one time dreamed of the lifestyle that I was living right at that moment. Total freedom. Total freedom. I was going to do something that was exciting to me, which was run, develop, and build my own business. I wasn't obligated to be anywhere because somebody set a schedule for me. So I could sit at the end of my driveway and text for 20 minutes, and nobody was hurt. I was still going to do the same job that day. I was still going to make as much money. And if I wasn't actively engaged in exterminating gophers or marketing my business or doing the administrative stuff, then that time belonged to me. I didn't have to sit somewhere and watch a clock and wait for permission to go on about my life. I was on my own farm, which is something I had been striving for since I was about 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. All of it was coming together right at that moment, and it just came over me. I was overwhelmed. I couldn't believe that it all happened for me. Now, my journey to being in agriculture is different than everybody else out there who's listening to this, and your journey is different than everybody else out there who is listening to this as well. This is my journey. This is the way I did it. And once that moment came over me, I was so excited, I was so happy. That kind of feeling of happiness you get, if you've got a horrible job, or I should stop saying that. If you've got a job that's the wrong fit for you, because it's not necessarily a horrible job, it's just a horrible job to you. But if you've got a horrible job, and you take a 10-day vacation, you take 2 weeks off, right? So I guess a 14-day vacation or 16, whatever that comes out to. Right about in the middle of it, where you've had enough time on vacation to de-stress and let everything from your everyday life go, and you're not close enough to the end of your vacation to where you're starting to dread going back and feeling like, oh, I wish life could stay like this and be like this. That moment of contentment, that moment of happiness, that feeling that you've had, that's the feeling I was having right then. Only I wasn't on vacation. I was on my own farm, lots of work to do there. I was running my own business, lots of work to do there. And I couldn't have been happier. And it was at that moment that I thought to myself, I should start my own podcast because I want to share this happiness with other people. Now, yes, my definition of happiness, there's other considerations when you do something like start a podcast or a blog or whatever it is, and that is, who am I going to talk to? I can't just talk to the whole world because the whole world is not interested in what I have to say. So who am I going to talk to? And so I had to get specific with who I was going to talk to. And who I decided to talk to were going to be people who were going to define happiness in the same way as me. And that is lots of work to do, but work we truly love, and that's called farming, that's called agriculture, that's called livestock. That's who I was going to talk to. And that's who I was going to share my form of happiness with. And to get even more specific than that, I was going to share that form of happiness with people who were stuck in that horrible job, horrible to them, the wrong fit, who were sitting there when they allowed themselves to dream about the life that they truly wanted, a life that would make them feel more fulfilled and more happy every single day. It made them upset and depressed because, see, I had been that person. I had been that person who, when I allowed myself to go, man, there's a different way to live, and this is what if I could do anything, this is exactly what I would want to do. I would want to have this lifestyle, this freedom. I would want to work in agriculture. I would want to live rural, and I would want to wake up in the morning and do what I wanted to do that day. I wanted 100% of my time to be my own. That's what I wanted. And there were times when, if I allowed myself to, fantasize about living that way, that it would become depressing. It could ruin my whole day because I wanted it so bad and I couldn't see a path to find it. And so it would be upsetting. It would bother me. It would, like I said, it would become depressing. And so that's, if I was going to get more specific, that is who I wanted to make this show for, because I knew there were other people out there who were in the same position, the same boat that I had been in, and I had somehow found my way out of it, and over into this other boat, and I wanted to help them find a way to switch boats as well. And so that is when the inspiration for this podcast happened. Well, hey everybody, just a quick moment just to acknowledge our great sponsors. I'm talking about the inspiration for this podcast. This podcast, without our great sponsors and without all of you supporting what we do here, would not exist. It absolutely would not. So let me take a moment to talk to you about Lacrosse Footwear. Done right since 1897, Lacrosse Footwear has been making quality boots for hunting, working, and tending the land for over a century. And it was cold outside irrigating this morning. I'm on my last irrigation of the year, which is amazing because it seems like 5 minutes ago I was on my first irrigation of the year. It was only 43 degrees this morning. And I'm recording this on September 28th, 2020. Only 43 degrees. It was a chilly morning for late September in the Treasure Valley of Idaho. And I will tell you what, it was also muddy and dewy because I'd been irrigating, and I had my Lacrosse Alpha Range boots on, and the one thing I know for sure is I had warm, comfortable, and dry feet. We want you to do the same. You will not be sorry with the Alpha Range. And hey, don't forget, hunting season is here, and Lacrosse is in the hunting boot business. Excuse me. So, go on out. Go down to your local sporting goods store, your farm and ranch retailer. Guarantee you they've got Lacrosse boots for you. You can find out everything Lacrosse has to offer you over at lacrossefootwear.com. And then, of course, everybody, Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. What I got to tell you, I put fly tags on our cattle this year. I have not had, all year, not one case of pink eye, period. We've been inundated with pink eye for years. I went to fly tags this year. We haven't had one case. But here we are. It's fall. I'm going to be cutting those fly tags out very, very soon. And every one of those cows is going to be coming right through our Powder River squeeze chute. And that does not bother me at all to work cattle because we've got the right equipment. And when you've got the right equipment, it makes life easy and it makes work pleasurable. Check out everything that Powder River has to offer you. You can find them over at powderriver.com and let your local farm and ranch retailer know that you want to see that Powder River green out in their sales yard. So you can also have the finest in livestock handling equipment. All right, well, just a quick drink there. When I do these solo episodes, man, my voice does not want to hold out. It's amazing. I never thought that would happen, but that's actually a thing that happens. So anyway, going back to this this idea of, and I'll read this paraphrase quote to you again. Make sure your version of what you are doing makes you happy, and you don't have to do it like me or anyone else who is featured on this show. We just want you to be happy. That is very true. So I assume that all of you are in this audience because you have a passion for, a love for, or a dream of living and working in this rural and agricultural lifestyle. I'm assuming that. Now, maybe not. I'm sure there's some of you who grew up living out on a farm, living in a rural community, and it's heartwarming for you to hear the stories of these people who are doing it and how much they love it, even though you've decided maybe that's not the life for you. I get that. That's fine, and I understand that. But I think for the vast majority of you, you're looking for a way to make it happen, or you're looking for a way to keep it going. You've got your start, but you're trying to figure out how to get there. And I think also for a bunch of you, there's probably a bunch of you who you've got the land, you've got some livestock, but you're still driving into that city job, and it's just driving you nuts. How am I going to be able to stop going into the city job, now, rather than waiting until I'm 65 or 67 when retirement kicks in or something like that? And I get it. I totally understand it. I did not want to wait, and I'm so happy that I found a way to not wait. So the point of this is, you guys, you've got to listen to yourself, or listen to that internal voice. What is it that is going to make you happy? And then you've got to adjust your lifestyle so you are able to do what it is that makes you happy. Make sure that you get things in the correct order. Please, please, please find a way to have lifestyle follow your work. Don't let work follow your lifestyle. And do you understand what I'm saying? Don't put yourself in a position that you have to take a certain job or a certain salary to support the lifestyle you've created. Because if you're not living the lifestyle that's right for you, and you're not in the job that's a right fit for you, but you're working your butt off to make extra money to pay for all this stuff, I mean, it's just this downward spiral. It's a negative cycle. You're working more, spending more time doing something you don't like to buy stuff you don't need, that's there to self-medicate and works, like a drug. It makes you happy for the first 48 hours you own it, or maybe the first 2 months you own it, and then it wears off, but you got the payment. Or maybe you don't have the payment, maybe you got 25 grand invested into something that's going down in value, or whatever. I don't know. Find a way to adjust your lifestyle to a happiness lifestyle. I teach about entrepreneurship for a couple reasons. One, I think entrepreneurship truly is the answer to the puzzling question of this paradox between living close to a city where you can make good money but land is super expensive, or moving out far enough to where land is not that expensive but there are no jobs, or there are not any good paying jobs, or not that many, or whatever it may be. And how do you rectify those two things? I think you use entrepreneurship. And so I teach entrepreneurship as the means to the end. And of course the end is we get to live rurally, we get to farm, but we need some off-farm income, at least at the beginning, hopefully just at the beginning. But you might be like me and get into it and go, I really, really like this and I want to keep it going. And so we're going to do it for as long as we possibly can. Who knows? My daughter likes to paint, and so she watches Bob Ross, and she always makes the joke of a happy little accident. If you ever watch Bob Ross, you'll get that. And I look at the fact that I think I'm going to be doing something entrepreneurial, some sort of business, some sort of content development like I do here for the rest of my life, and that, is, my friends, is a happy little accident. This is not part of the plan. This is not something I intended. The whole goal was to get to the point where all I had to do was farm. But now I love doing this in addition to the lifestyle I was seeking. And that, my friends, is a happy little accident. Maybe you'll have a happy little accident too. You don't know. But you've got to figure out a way to define your happiness. Now, please stop worrying about what other people think. Please, please, please. Now, you're going to have to worry about what your spouse thinks. So, but again, you get married, you're supposed to become one person, one flesh. And so it's not really what your spouse thinks. You are an entity at this point, right? So you have no choice because it's the right thing to do. You have to take that into account. But everybody else, including your parents, including your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, all of those people, you've got to stop worrying about what they think. Now, I don't mean that you ignore their wisdom. Please don't take this the wrong way. Don't ignore their wisdom, and don't ignore them if they come to you and you respect them and they say you're doing something morally wrong. Don't ignore that stuff. But you've got to ignore the, oh, that's no way to make a living, or, oh, that's not real work, or, are you sure you want to do that? What if this happens? What if that happens? The worries that they project onto you because they're not entrepreneurial. Non-entrepreneurial people are in large part non-entrepreneurs because they're afraid. They need security, and I totally understand that. But they will project that onto you, and they'll make you feel like the risk you're taking is outlandish or outrageous, or you're going to ruin your whole life by trying to go after a life that you're truly going to love. And you can't listen to that. You can't worry about what they think. Again, don't reject their wisdom, and be smart about what you're doing. But you've got to understand when they're projecting fear onto you. Don't listen to fear. Absolutely do not listen to fear. And don't listen to other people when they're projecting fear onto you. Don't listen to other people when they are projecting negativity onto you. These black crabs, this concept I've talked about many times on this show. Don't listen to other people when they realize their own shortcomings. Well, maybe they don't, but they project negativity onto you about what it is you're trying to do, and don't listen to them. Don't listen to them when they're projecting fear onto you. And the reason they're doing that is it's a defense mechanism for them, because if they sat there and acknowledged that, hey, you could really do this and you could really find this life that you've been dreaming about, then they've got to acknowledge that they could too if they would only apply themselves and they would get over their own hurdles. And they don't want to do that because it's tough to look in the mirror sometimes. So they project negativity onto you. So you got to stop listening to other people. You've got to find your way to be happy. You've also got to stop listening to the people who tell you that you've got to project a certain image. All right? So who would you rather be? Let me ask you this really quick. Who would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy going down the road in the $90,000, yes, $90,000, I don't know, is it the Platinum or the Lariat? I think there's actually one that's more expensive, Ford truck-wise. Ford diesel pickup, 4-door long bed, decked out. I believe there's one more expensive than the Lariat or the Platinum. When I bought my pickup, I bought mine brand new. I think, if I remember right, the guy that was selling me my pickup told me there was one more expensive. There was one notch up. Would you rather be the guy driving that truck or the guy driving the, 1986 Ford 3/4 ton down the road, taking their produce to the farmer's market or whatever? Which would you rather be? Now, I'm not trying to say, would you rather be poor or would you rather be financially independent? That's not what I'm trying to say. I want financial independence for you. No question about that. No question about that. But which one of these two would you rather be? Now, I'll tell you which one I would rather be. I've got my own little niche here. When trucks became... When did this happen? Over the last 10 years? Where trucks have become so astronomically expensive. I mean, it is unreal. It is unreal what you can spend on a pickup now. When they became so expensive, I decided I want to be the guy who is very utilitarian. And I think that's a very good definition of me. I want the utility out of something. I don't need much more from it than that. So when I wanted to get a new truck, and by the way, my Dodge, my last pickup I had 15 years. Before that I had a 69 Ford pickup, 2-wheel drive, 3/4 ton. Drove that around forever. All over. From California to Montana. All over that thing. To the point where we had to pull over once on our way home from Montana because the floorboard was getting so hot. Autumn was like, I need out of this truck. So, yeah. We had 460 air conditioning, 4 windows open. Wait, 360 because I had a split window in the back. It was a single cab. So 360 air conditioning, 3 windows open, 60 miles an hour, top speed. Anyway, so I had that 69 Ford, then I bought the Dodge, I had that 15 years, and now I've got a Ford again. I bought my Ford brand new. I went down, started looking at trucks. I told the dealer, and the dealer, we're going to have to special order a pickup for me. Because I said I want a single cab, long bed, 4-wheel drive Ford pickup with the 6.2 liter V8 engine, and I want it just a fleet truck, steel wheels, white, no frills. That's what I want. And I'm like, we don't really sell those, but we've got this one over here with a back massager in the seat. No thanks on that. By the way, if that's your thing, I don't hold it against you at all. But what I'm just describing to you where I was at. So anyway, I finally found one. Then I started talking to Autumn because I can't go buy a pickup without, her input. And she insisted that I upgrade the trim and that I get a 4-door. I said, I don't want a 4-door, I want a single cab. Well, that's not practical, we're a family of 3. So we compromised and I got the super cab. So I don't have the 4-door, I've got the 2-door with the 2 back doors that kind of come out like suicide doors used to. So I've got the super cab, and we got the STX trim, which is nice. We got gray paint and nicer wheels, and that was it. But it looks nice. It's a nice looking truck, but nobody knows that it's barely one step above a fleet vehicle, barely one step up from the pickup that your local city would buy to run around, for Parks and Rec or whatever. That's what I wanted. That's who I wanted to be. Very, very utilitarian. So that's what I drive around. And I just couldn't go further than that. And I knew personally, if I went another 30,000 or 40,000, I could have got another 50,000 into the hole on a pickup. I say into the hole. I call it a hole because it's a depreciating asset. It's going down in value. I could have got another 50,000 into the hole on this deal. I would never use that truck the way I need to use a truck to run my farm, to get work done around here, to go hunting, all of that. I would have needed a second truck to go do all the stuff I need to do so I could have that first truck. This is me personally. There are guys out there who will go buy that truck and they will use it. And hey, more power to you. You're going to buy that truck. And by the way, I do not begrudge anybody any pickup or any item. To me, it's all just a matter of ratios and a matter of numbers. But here's where I do begrudge this. If you are sitting there and you're trying to find a way into this lifestyle, and you're trying to find a way, your version of happiness, have you ever considered that $65,000 or that $70,000 pickup will give you temporary happiness, but in the long run will rob you of contentment? Have you ever considered that? And have you ever asked yourself, why do I need that pickup? Let's say that right now you live in a subdivision. And nothing wrong with that. I did it. Done it a couple times. You live in a subdivision and you'd like to get back out here with the rest of us. And you've got a healthy house payment. You know, let's say you're at 40% of take home for your house payment. Which in a lot of, if you live in Boise right now, you're trying to get into a house, that's where you're going to be. You might be higher. It's almost impossible right now. So there's a lot of people I really sympathize with where you're at, because you want to start growing your money. You don't want to throw it away on rent. But with housing prices and everything that's going on, wages can't keep up. Where I live, in Ada County, Idaho, in the month of August, so this past month, we had 249 houses on the market. We've got 400,000 people that live in this county. And we only had 249 houses on the market, and we've got thousands of people who are flooding out of California trying to move here. Think about what that does to housing prices. It's unbelievable. And if you're trying to just move, if you want to upgrade, your family's growing, you need a bigger place, it's next to impossible. Because your house is going to sell in one day, and everything you look at is going to sell in one day, with people lined up outside the door to try and buy it. It is really a bad situation, especially for a first-time home buyer. So I understand if your house payment is way up there, because you could be in one of these situations where you're going through this. So let's pretend that you're in this subdivision. You're dreaming about getting back out here or out here with the rest of us who get to live this way. And you're going to go buy a truck. And on the short term, you want the truck. The truck, I'll be honest with you, the truck, I don't know, it makes you feel. You can't have the farm right now, but you can have the truck. And I totally get that. I totally understand that. But man, think of what that truck represents. Think of how that money could grow. Think of the money you're going to lose because of the interest payments. Think of the money you're going to lose because of the depreciation, and how you could be taking that money and you could be starting your first business. How you could be taking that money and you could be adding to it. You could be saving and waiting for an opportunity to open up, or maybe you could buy 10 acres somewhere. Maybe 10 acres with a house, who knows? Somewhere where it's affordable, where all of a sudden you go, I've been working my butt off to make this big house payment in this community for 5 years, for 10 years, whatever it may be. And now I've saved up this money, we've bought our piece of land already, and it doesn't matter what jobs are out there, because when I sell this house, we're going to cash flow everything. We've got equity. But not if you're buried in those payments, not if you've taken your money and you've kind of helped it disappear or diminish because you put it into depreciating assets. So think about that for a minute. Define your happiness. You don't have to do it exactly the same way as me, But what is that? And what will get you there quicker? In a few short years of sacrificing on material things, or on things that impress the neighbors, or whatever it may be, is going to get you there a lot quicker. And here's the thing I can tell you right now. When you get out here with the rest of us, now this is not true for everybody, but it's certainly true for me. When I see somebody who is running the farm business, they've got a farm business going, they're selling at a farmer's market, they're selling calves in the fall, whatever model of agriculture they've chosen, and they're up and down the road in an old Ford or an old Chevy or whatever, and they are the epitome of utility, because you can tell by their actions, not by their words, but by their actions, how much they love agriculture and how devoted they are to being able to farm and to never go back, to always, for the rest of their lives, to live this particular lifestyle. I admire that person. Now, somebody going down the road in the $75,000 Power Stroke, I might admire them too, because they might be brilliant. They might have gone out, started a business, and done phenomenal, and they might have their farm, it might be paid for, and they might have bought themselves a creature comfort. I might admire them too. But there are people in the middle who are robbing themselves of the opportunity for this happiness, because on a short term they're buying stuff that makes them feel better. Please understand, we want you to be happy, and a lot of times when you're not, it's because you're not in the right fit. And with the root, the origin of this podcast being, we want you to be happy in the same way we are happy, I want you to understand that you really need to take a look inward and decide, what of these things do I truly need? What of these things are just a luxury? And am I self-medicating because I'm in the wrong fit? Because I'm not content? Because I'm not happy? Am I spending the money that could lead me into true happiness on material things to buy me a temporary reprieve from the grind of the day-to-day? All right. Well, everybody, I did not truly know where I was going with this episode when I heard that from Gary Vaynerchuk this morning. But I decided I wanted to come back to that because it really reminded me of why this show started in the first place. And I want to say thank you all for being here. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.